I'm really liking going live because there's way less me editing myself in behind the scenes, which I don't have time for with sleeping babies. I gotta get this out now. So I wanted to just share a little bit about meddling and peering into the future, the do's and don'ts, when and why I do it. I used to be adverse to kind of all future, like anything involving the future. And I do understand that that can be from a place of understanding that our relationship to the future is something that actually can change and bend with our relationship to ourselves, with the inner work we're doing in ourselves, which will reflect in the decisions that we make, in the opportunities that come our way, that we say yes or no to. And so I do believe that the future is a place that does morph and wind, but that we get a generic map before us. And so this is with the course that I do every year. I've been doing it for 4 years. And I have students come back every year because the map was just so helpful for them and is so helpful for me. And so what does it mean to create a map or to observe a map? And for me, it's this idea that as a psychic and as somebody that's very sensitive to how do you call it, like kind of like subtle imprints that exist for us. I believe that life is constantly showing us these like little imprints of information and guidance, and so these imprints are cast along the path before us. And so when we're working with maps, and in the class I do, we go through each month. And at first, there's kind of a bit of a journey where we journey through the year, kind of do a trance work together, and I'll guide my students through the year where we see the landscape of the year before us. And it's really important when doing oracular arts to detach any emotional or mental significance to what you're seeing to begin with, because that can happen over time. But I find in the trance journey, just observing, like you're taking information in, you're taking notes of what you see along the trail of the next year symbolically. And so we start with that because that's the poetry of the soul, as I believe that the soul actually speaks through symbols and metaphor, and that first conversation is one that can help us open up to the information that's before us. And then once you've kind of opened up and the soul feels a little more supple and ready to take that information in, then we'll go into actually going through each month. And in each month we do a card pull, and then we also have there's a oracular practice that I use these the 8 pathways of information, how information wants to be digested and explored through us. And so it's this idea that each month is a way, information or life. Each month we have a certain quality that we get to filter our experience through to make the most of the month before us. And so those are little pieces that we do with like charting the year. So then we get into meddling. And so right now I'm on our 3rd month of a series that I put together called Spinners of Fate. And it's a manifestation or kind of womb festation, it sounds a little intense, practice that I've been working with for years and years and years that I really, really appreciate. And why I called this circle together was I realized that it can be easy for myself to almost like sit back in the passenger seat and let life have its way with me and take me where it wants to take me. But that if there are times in my life where it's almost like there can be this like lethargy or this part of myself that is not stepping into what it takes of me to dictate and put my vote in for life and help direct the current of energy that is forming itself before me in the experiences I'm having and the circumstances that are coming my way and the opportunities that I'm making or blocking. And so with working with manifestation work, I find that it's this way of getting out of the passenger seat, getting into the driver's seat, stopping, being witnessed with what is a desire within me that has yet to be experienced in this life, and how can I be witnessed in that, firstly by beloved people in my community that are holding me in magical space, that are letting me declare my desire. And so I think even that practice in itself, without getting into like the witchy thing this process that we do together to uplift and ignite and cast those prayers out, just having somebody in your life that you can go and excavate those desires inside of you and express them and get comfortable expressing them and being and hearing them for yourself. I think of like that is the step of being comfortable letting life hear what you desire. Somebody told me once, like, and it really sat with me, this idea that like creator or life or God doesn't like determine like what you want or what you don't want when it's all just like, okay, this is what will happen. So when we're expressing what we want, that's equally being heard as what we don't want. And so in the manifestation work that I do, it stemmed from the intenders circles. And so the basic format is you come into a place of gratitude first and foremost in yourself and for what you have in your life. Even the sweet, like we can all find a little bit of gratitude, even if it's in like, I've got a beautiful blue around my face today, but finding that gratitude and then playing with the idea of how can you articulate what you desire as though it's already happened. And so sometimes it's really awkward if you are completely out of vibrational resonance at this point in your path with what you desire, and it can feel like that imposter syndrome when you're declaring it, being witnessed in it as though it's already happened. And I know when I do that, I'm like, oh, this is really good, like I feel like I'm such a fake here. But you slowly, as you start wording it, as you start declaring it as though it's already happened, it's almost a way of like letting these like polarizing realities kind of like find a balance point vibrationally together. And then when you're done, so an example of how this process would work in Spinners of Fate, and also why I called it Spinners of Fate, is I feel like in life it's like we have these two perspectives. We can let life kind of spin our fate for us. We can just let it go, see where we're going to be taking, or we can be the spinners of our fate. We can influence that which we desire by letting our desires be kind of the roving that we spin into the string that we want to weave our life with. And like, I mean, what feels better to you, right? Like, I like the latter. And so after you declare what you desire as though it's already happened, and you're always holding that in an affirmative way. So getting used to taking out any knots. And I like to think of it as, if you think of our words are like we're a weaver with our prayers, with our words, with how we're casting what we desire into the world, that to say anything that like, I do not want this, you're actually putting a knot in that string. And so you're creating like a block in the thread of your prayers. And so in this work, in the container that I hold for Spinners of Fate, and this is something like, please, if you want to bring this to your own communities, I actually have like a whole PDF workbook from when I used to offer these like gatherings once a month for years. And I just kind of compiled it into this sweet little nifty PDF. I'll totally send that your way if you want to bring it to your communities, because it's so fun. And so once you've declared what you've desired, been witnessed it by everyone, and at this point, if you're holding space for somebody, you would be actually like listening to the person before you as a voice of truth, and realizing that we're all voicing truths that may actually be part of our own internal excavation that we haven't even got to yet. And so that's why I love doing manifestation work with other people, because especially in this structure, is that the prayer that you're manifesting, then you get to align with the people in your group. So if somebody says something and you're like, oh yes, sparkle fingers to that, like line me up in that prayer as well, you actually get to kind of be part of this greater web of articulated desires. And so then when you're done, at the end of it, you would say, so be it. And everyone else would say, and so it is. And together we go, it is done, it is done, it is done. And you poof it into existence. So that's a bit of, okay, for the highest and best good in the highest best way, of course, throw that in. And so that for me, like this video for you popping on, hello. The theme is meddling and with fate. It's also peering into fate. So I was talking about the class I'm offering. There's an online version and an in-person version if you're here on Salt Spring Island coming up, called Calendar Magic Divining 2023. And it's a lot about getting a map of the next year. And the reason why I like maps is it actually helps me. Every year, I've been doing this for 4 years. Every year, the map, I actually, when I'm business planning, for all you business folk out there, mompreneurs, woo! When I'm business planning, I take the map of the year that that my oracular vision has shown me, and through the process that I do with Calendar Magic, and I actually overlay what my launches are going to look like, how I'm, by observing like, oh, this month might actually be a month of rest. And the fates are saying, like, I might actually have things come up that need me to slow down and rest. So maybe I'm not going to align it with something that requires a full on, maybe it's not launch time. Maybe it's the time where I need to incubate or craft more offerings or work on slower projects. So I do integrate these maps into how I run my business. And I found when I don't, and I'm like, but this doesn't line up with like the strategy I have. There's always been something that comes up that, like, if I had just looked at my map, my divination map of the year, like I would have had a lot more clear sailing. So these are me giving you a few different like practices that I've been working with, but I will say that like I am not one to like intentionally go into the past. So we're talking about time travel here. So we're talking about the future is something that I'm getting more comfortable with, because I think as I can claim my responsibility to the actions that I take in this day-to-day life, and I can trust that they are coming from a good place, and that I can like start to feel more confident about my future syncing up with where I'm at now, that there's almost like, how do I word this? Like, I almost feel like the Invisibles want to talk about the future. Let's see. I have a few more minutes before my babies wake up, probably, but what if we told you that there is a thread of life that is fractal in color? That there are so many myriads that are coming together to find some cohesion, that life can move through them in a way that can turn into what you experience in this human plane. But if we also told you that when you are not holding a clear harnessing of your own will, and we're not saying that your will needs to be refined into a specific desire, but will is something that you can feel in the core of your being. It is a lantern that is available to guide you when your impulse and intuition spark. And so it's that lantern, that will, that is necessary to bring this cohesion of the paths before you in a way that you can digest them, that you can feel their frequency entering into you. You're having a conversation. Oh, they're popping up. It's this idea of having like a dialogue with the ripple of the future that's coming our way. I do believe that time is very coexisting in all spaces, and I think that's why when I work with my clients, I can go to people's past, I can see what's happened, I can hear what's happened, I can see how that's affecting their bodies, And the reason people were like, how did you know this very specific experience? It's like, because time has a stamp. Our experiences are stamped in this like this weave of time, and that we can go through this weave of time to like encounter these memories, work with these memories, maybe tease them out, maybe find parts of ourselves that are living in the past, that are in maybe soul parts that are kind of have hidden themselves in these pockets in time. And so what I'm learning more about, but I'm still actually like pretty newbie about, is how that works in the future, right? That I'm like pretty savvy with like past, and the past is like very comfortable for me, but the future requires a different kind of elegance, because if the future follows that same line and those same rules, there is a pebble of an experience that I feel like the larger the experience that we will have, the bigger the ripples. And the bigger the ripples mean maybe the more it'll influence, or we can feel into that radar. Oh, no, somebody else. I'm like waiting for my kids to wake up. And so like I said, I'm still kind of feeling into how that we can work with the future in a way that honors the decisions that we're going to be making in the present. But for now, the map is something I work with, and the divination is something I work with, and especially prayers that we feel in our bodies is like the inner map of our prayers. So that's enough of me rambling on. Thank you all for watching, and may the ripples of your future speak to you in ways that are easily accessible, are nourishing, are invoke a sense of urgency when necessary, and that you can trust in the guidance that's coming your way. And for me to shamelessly promote, if you want to learn from me, the online class is on the solstice, the 21st. And there's a recording available if you can't make it. It's $20.23, of course, and you can check my link in my bio to register. And there's an in-person on the 18th here on Salt Spring. It's a little longer so we can have more one-on-one time, and all the students usually get a bit of me helping kind of digest and dissect the map that they've had. So if there's something that you want specific insight on, if you're a little confused, I can help a bit in our live class. So thanks for watching. All right, ciao. I keep forgetting how to turn this off. Oh my gosh. There we go. Bye, everyone.